Yo, what's up guys? My name is Fox and welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about a game I have not covered on my channel yet, but there will be more videos about this game on my channel, I can guarantee you that. That game is Monster Hunter Rise. Yes, I play a lot of Monster Hunter, I always have and always will, because Monster Hunter is a great franchise and the games are great. The current game, Sunbreak, or the expansion of Rise, which is called Sunbreak, is honestly pretty fun, and I've been enjoying myself again lately on it for quite a lot, to be honest. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about 10 beginner tips. The game was on sale on Steam not too long ago. I think it actually ended today, on the day where I upload this video. But I assume there's also a lot of new players, and if you are a new player or you're trying to get into Monster Hunter, these tips are something I wish, honestly, someone would have told me when I started playing, because this game is pretty hard for a new player. It's completely new, it's a different genre, and there's a few things that I just wish I knew when I started playing, and exactly 10 things that I could think of will be mentioned in this video that will help you on your journey to become an amazing hunter at Monster Hunter. So I would say let's jump right into it. Let's talk about 10 beginner tips for Monster Hunter Rise. Number 1, combat is turn-based. And you might be thinking, what the heck is this guy smoking that he says this? But hear me out. Obviously, turn-based games have their very obvious turns in which you choose your action, it is executed, and the other player has its turn. Now, once you understand that quite a lot of games have a form of turns, they become much easier. Especially Monster Hunter. You have to respect the monster's turn. As a new player, you might struggle early on with some harder monsters because you don't know when to get uptime during your combat and when to go in and so on. This is where you need to change your perspective and approach to Monster Hunter. Usually the monster will execute a move and then has a form of recovery from this move, just like you do as the hunter from some of your abilities. Yet, you need to respect when it is the monster's turn. If you struggle staying alive, try to give the monster its turn by dodging, countering, running away, or whatever you can do while the monster is doing its ability, and then take your turn. Usually you are able to get decent uptime on the monster after it has done its move, or rather its turn. The reason I use the word turn here is because the turn can also be multiple moves from the monster. Changing my approach to combat this way while I was learning helped me a lot to become a better hunter and to now also know how to extend my turn or to cut off the monster's turn, because the better you become at hunting, the more you know how to exploit the monster's turn and how to make more use of your turn. A weapon that really engages in this is the greatsword, which executes a hit and run strategy where you wait for the recovery of the monster's turn, go in, slap it, and run away until it's your turn again. Number 2, offense is the best defense. Yes, this might not sound obvious at first, but once you get the hang of Monster Hunter, you will realize that hunts become much easier the more you stun or knock a monster. A knocked monster or mountable monster is free damage for you. But in order to get to that point, you need to first understand my previously mentioned point of the turns and how to abuse your turn better. Once you do, you will quickly realize that only running around, healing and dodging will not get you anywhere. Sometimes this might be the only option because of a chain of attacks, but mostly you want to play as aggressive as you can while still respecting the turn of the monster and abuse your openings as much as you can. Once you're able to extend your own turns, dish out more damage, you will see how being aggressive will pay off massively and make your hunts so much better because you are knocking the monster much more, which in return allows you to do more damage. If you are more interested in this topic, I suggest watching speedruns so you can see exactly what I mean with offense is the best defense. Number 3, learn monster moves and their patterns. Hunting mindlessly can be fun, but will eventually come back to haunt you. It is really good and future-proof for yourself to really learn what monsters do. It's also fine to just go on a hunt and specifically dodge or counter moves from a monster to learn their abilities and timings better. Your hunts will become so much smoother if you don't get knocked, don't get hit, and abuse every opening you get because of you learning how to deal with the abilities of the monsters. Some weapons really rely more on this naturally, making them a better choice to learn with than others. For example, a bowgun just dodges from far and you can ignore many melee attacks. You also don't have any downtime on it, so you try to get as much uptime as possible. It is definitely not a weapon I'd recommend to learn patterns on. Instead, weapons that rely on counters or dodges like the longsword, the switch axe, the chargebalde, or even the greatsword for its good old hit and run tactic is something I can only suggest to familiarize yourself with the monster moves. Some of them might be more frustrating at first, but once you master the weapon and then understand the monster you are hunting, you will feel extremely fulfilled and super satisfied. Number 4. Bowguns are their own game. So bowguns are really cool because you're basically playing Monster Hunter shooter, and some of the bowguns are incredibly strong. Yet by learning bowguns, or rather focusing on bowguns, you are limiting yourself massively. Back in World, I would play bowgun with sticky and slicing, and that worked fine until it got boring. And then I would try to pick up a melee weapon, which was really hard because I had no idea what was going on. So I'm not saying you should not play bowgun here, but be aware that if you decide to learn the bowgun and then also progress on the bowgun, you might have to stick with it for a while because melee weapons are so different and you have to learn the monsters completely new basically. That's how different bowguns are to melee weapons in this game. My personal suggestion is to learn the game on a melee weapon and transition to bowguns if you enjoy their playstyle. Of course, you can also only focus on the bowgun, but be aware that once you do want to play melee weapon, you will struggle, which is of course okay because you can then relearn the game again. The next tip I really want to talk about is something that's super important to me. It is that every single weapon is good. Yes, and I hope you've heard this somewhere else already, but I just want to really stress this again. Every weapon is viable, every weapon does damage. Sure, there's a meta of weapons that are maybe a bit stronger, of weapons that have faster clear times, but it doesn't mean that another weapon is bad. It just means one weapon is a bit overpowered. With a few changes they did from the base game to Sunbreak, certain weapons became better and stronger, and currently I would say really every single weapon in Sunbreak is really good. So do not let your choice of your weapon be influenced by anything. Do not let someone tell you, oh, this weapon is garbage. No, it's not. The most important thing about this game is to have fun, to be honest. And if you enjoy a certain weapon, you should play that weapon, in my opinion. That is really important. The only thing where a weapon choice could matter is possibly while being a content creator or while doing speedruns. And even in speedruns, you are going to compete against speedruns of the same weapon again, basically, because comparing yourself to a different weapon just doesn't make sense. There's always going to be weapons in Monster Hunter that will be stronger than others in terms of raw damage output, and if you give them to a super player, that player will be able to do more damage with it than with a different weapon, but that's okay. But again, every weapon is viable and good and fun, and you should play what you feel like. I really want to stress this. Even bowguns, like I mentioned in my post above. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't play bowguns. I'm just saying if you do play bowguns, you're locking yourself into bowguns a little bit, which is not a problem. If you have fun with them, you should play them. Number 6. Multiplayer hunts are usually much easier. This is probably quite obvious, but if you're struggling with the game, go play online. Multiplayer hunts are a good opportunity for you to farm materials you need to upgrade and make your hunts easier. Overall, they are usually easier as a monster can always only focus one player out of the 4 on the battlefield, giving you much more time to recover and have uptime depending on the moves of the monster. Especially bowguns have it super easy in multiplayer hunts and can dish out so much damage as they have to focus less on dodging. Perhaps you didn't know yet, but a damage meter also exists. I personally do not suggest using it, but I can also understand that you might want to know how you are performing versus other players in online hunts, which is a fair reason. Just make sure to not talk about it or to not tell anyone about the damage if it was low or something, because that is just really impolite. Another small advice is to also bring AoE heals and possible AoE buffs to support your fellow hunters. Number 7. Look for resources about sets and builds. Monster Hunter in general can be quite complicated when it comes to damage optimization, and this is where you can lay your head in peace. Many others already have done a lot of math and understand the game properly, so you can just copy what they did. It will actually help you quite a lot to follow builds suggested by communities like the Discord, the Reddit for the Monster Hunter meta, and other resources to just make your hunts easier and to transition to endgame. These builds have been optimized and will net you your best bang for your buck, so use them. But don't forget my next point, which is number 8, comfort over damage. Especially as a new player. Yes, damage is great as it allows you to finish your hunts faster. But if you card 3 times, you wasted your time. Maybe you are extending your hunt by a massive amount because you have issues dodging. There's decos to make it all easier. Dodging, giving defense, more heals, whatever you wish for. I definitely suggest at the start to have as many comfort decers as you want, unless that again will decrease your damage output so much that you have a huge amount of time wasted in your hunts. And another disadvantage is that you should not get too used to them because you will probably replace them down the road for damage. Number 9. Wyvern riding is not mandatory. This is a weird one and very specific, but I know I really struggled with Wyvern riding because it would just interrupt my combos and it was super annoying. But you can disable the automatic Wyvern riding on pressing a button by making it so it would only execute the Wyvern riding when you have your weapon sheathed, right? It's very important because I doubt a greatsword doing its 3rd charge would want to exchange that damage for the instant Wyvern riding. So in your settings you can change it to that, and this is more of a small QL tip than anything else. That doesn't mean that Wyvern riding is not good. It is great, does a lot of damage, but having it automatically interrupt some damage combo was very frustrating for me personally. My 10th and last tip is something that is going to become relevant going into endgame. That is that elemental weapons are cracked. Yes, it is much more comfortable to just have one single set that you use to hunt every monster, but that will really hurt your overall damage output. I recently swapped from my one for all weapon into making elemental sets for endgame, and the damage is nuts. I felt like getting into elemental stuff was always so complicated, but it actually isn't that much. You just do quite a lot more damage. So get used to this idea of swapping sets and weapons, and just do it early on because that way you won't have issues with it late game, and you will also be able to get used to how it works in the game. They are just simply superior to having one weapon for every single monster, and they will ultimately enhance your hunting experience and also give you quite a lot more to grind for, which is part of the fun in Monster Hunter, at least for me. And that was already it for today's video. Oh my god, I'm so happy I made a video about Monster Hunter. I really like this game, and honestly, you should try it. I'm not trying to sell you the game, but it's a really good game, and these tips are hopefully helpful to you. I hope you didn't know already all of them. If you did, well, it was a reminder, I guess, or you're not as new as you might think you are, maybe. But seriously, if you have also more questions about this, you can always, ask me anything in the comments below, and I will try my best to answer your question regarding Monster Hunter. But overall, again, I hope this video was helpful to any new player. And if it did, and if you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and also hit the subscribe button. You can also comment with anything, because any like, any comment, it helps, against the algorithm on YouTube. And if you did like my content, that's a very easy way to support me by just literally interacting with it on any platform, but specifically, of course, here on YouTube. Thank you a lot for watching. If you made it this far, you're a real champ. And as always, of course, wishing you an amazing rest of your day wherever you live